Welcome everybody to the Chilean Probability Seminar. We have the pleasure to have with us Hubert Lacroix, who is now working at INPA, Rio de Janeiro, and who should be now in Aix-Marseille University, but
No,
COVID. No?
I've been back at my time at my sabbatical.
Ah, you already stopped, yeah. So
yeah,
I was reading your webpage, but I can see that
yeah,
that it's not up to date.
Now they are making the audit of my presence there to check if they won't process the university. So I have to keep a trace of this. I'm not even following the order because normally I should put a European flag. Okay.
So it is complicated, but now he's in Brazil, so he's close by, and he will be talking to us about the stochastic heat equation with multiplicative Levy-Noise and its connections with directed polymer. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Avelio, for the invitation. So what I'm going to be talking about today is joint work with Quentin Berger from Paris and Carsten Chong from Columbia University in New York. Yes, so it's about stochastic heat equation with multiplicative noise. So let me first write the equation. So, well, the variable is a function u of time and space, and space is RD, is d-dimensional. The equation is simply, well, dt, the dt of u is equal to 1/2 of Laplacian of u plus beta xi times u, where, okay, beta is a positive real number, which is just an amplitude term. Xi is a Levy space-time white noise, so it's a distribution. This multiplication, it will be thought as Ito multiplication. So, and just to simplify things in this talk, we are going to consider only the case of Dirac at zero initial condition, but this is, okay, once you solve this case, you can really extend it quite easily. So this is not so much of a restriction. Okay, so for people, I'm not an SPD person, so to study this kind of stuff, I need a motivation. So I will try to convey it to you and talk about the connection with directed polymers. So what is directed polymer? Well, it's a modification of the random walk in ZD, which is based on a random environment. So, okay, we let P be the simple random walk in ZD, nearest neighbor random walk. We consider eta to be a set of IID random variables that are indexed by n, which will play the role of time, and ZD, which plays the role of space. Our directed polymer measure for the polymer of length n, it's the measure whose density with respect to the random walk is proportional to exponential beta times the sum of the eta along the path of the random walk. And okay, in order to define this, to make this a probability, you need to renormalize. And the renormalizing term, which is z here, is called the partition function of the system. And why is it called directed polymer? Well, you can say that the first n steps, the graph of the first n steps of your random walk, it models a polymer that stretches in one direction. So here I made a picture in dimension 1. It interacts in the environment in the sense that, well, when your graph visits a site, basically its relative weight is multiplied by exponential beta times eta. So if eta is positive, basically you favor paths that visit this site, and if eta is negative, you penalize it. Okay, and this is the kind of measure people are interested in studying. And okay, if you want a continuous counterpart of this, one thing you can do is, okay, so first let's consider the case where the environment is something nice. So let's say that we consider a smooth function of continuous bounded function of space and time. Well, you can just play the same game and just replace random walk by Brownian motion and sums by integrals. So you get you consider the measure, which is absolutely continuous with respect to the d-dimensional Wiener measure, and whose density is proportional to exponential beta times the integral of V. Okay, in that case, the partition function, it's given by this expectation of exponential beta times the integral. A quantity we are really more interested in is not this partition function, but it's what I will call the point to line partition function. I will be interested in the point to point partition function. And this is basically the contribution to the partition function of trajectories that end up at x. So a way to define that properly is, well, you replace this expectation here by an expectation with respect to the Brownian bridge. And then you want to multiply by the probability that you end up at x, so you multiply by the heat kernel in front. Okay, so this Wiener measure condition to Bt equal x this is just a simplified way to write the Brownian bridge measure. Okay, here I'm conditioning to an event of probability 0, but this is not a problem because this is pretty standard. Okay, so what about this point-to-point partition function? So if you integrate it with respect to space, what you get is the point-to-line partition function. And if you look at the quotient between the point-to-point and the point-to-line partition function, what you obtain is the density of the distribution of Bt under this polymer measure with potential V. Okay, so where is the link with the heat equation with multiplicative noise? Well, this point-to-point partition function, it is the solution of the following equation. So, well, the same thing as before, but where I replace psi by V with Dirac zero initial condition. And this is, well, the way of writing this as the expectation of an exponential it's called the Feynman-Kac representation of the solution. Okay, so why do we want to study the equation with Levy noise instead of considering it with a nice potential V? Well, maybe the more sensible answer is to, if you want really an analog of IID environment, really white noise is the only way to go. So this is the reason why you have to study this equation with white noise. Okay, so so what is a Levy space-time white noise? So I will first introduce this in a simple context. So basically, Levy white noise is well, to Gaussian white noise what Levy processes are to Brownian motion. And okay, in order to define the Levy white noise, what is important is the set of jumps. So what you are starting with is a measure lambda. So I will consider processes with positive jumps. So lambda will be a measure on 0 infinity. It's locally finite. I suppose that it can be integrated at infinity, and that first I will suppose that z can be integrated at 0. And then I define a Poisson point process on a 3-coordinate space where the first 2 coordinates are space and time. And the third coordinate, I will call it amplitude. And the density of my Poisson point process will be Lebesgue for the first 2 coordinates and lambda for the third one. And my Levy white noise, it will be a random measure which is obtained by basically for each point of my Poisson process, I will place a Dirac mass in space-time. Okay, the location of this Dirac mass will be given by the 2 first coordinates of the point. And I will multiply it by a factor which is simply the third coordinate, the amplitude. And because of my assumption that z is integrable at 0, this sum here gives me a locally finite measure. So this gives me a proper random process. So for some reason, I want to compensate for the jumps that have amplitude smaller than 1, and you will see immediately why. So I will just subtract a constant to this. So subtract, well, if you consider this as a distribution, subtract a constant times Lebesgue measure to that. And this random sign measure is what I will call the Levy spacetime white noise with jump intensity lambda, even if it's a bit improper, because here I'm kind of fixing the drift. But, okay, so actually you can expand this definition a little bit, and this is what we are interested in. So you can define it under more general condition. You don't necessarily require z to be integrable at 0. You can only say that z square is integrable at 0. In that case, well, you have a problem to define the sum of Dirac mass I talked to you about, because, well, you get something quite uninteresting if you do that. You get a measure which is locally infinite. So what you do instead is, well, what you can do instead, you can fix a threshold A, ignore all jumps that are smaller than A, and now you have a, well, you are back to the previous case, so you have a sum which is a locally finite measure, and then you subtract this constant, which compensate for all the jumps smaller of amplitude smaller than 1. And when you send A to 0, well, this measure blows up, but the drift also blows up, and it turns out that these two things compensate. And okay, in the end, you obtain a limit which is not a sign measure, but which is, well, you have a convergence in some distributional space, so you can integrate smooth function against the limit. Okay, and this is the kind of noise we will consider. So, of course, you can be more general than that. So in what I presented, all my jumps are positive. This is mostly to maintain the connection with directed polymer. Some of our results are also valid when you have when you allow for negative jumps, and some others, well, don't make sense. So also, well, there is another thing in a Levy process. You can have always a diffusive part. So, of course, in a Levy white noise, in the most general definition, you can have a Gaussian white noise part. Okay, here we could also do that in dimension 1, but in dimension 2, you will see that this is not possible. So there is not so much loss of generality by not considering this. And well, a third thing is that, okay, you can add constant to a Levy process, but for our equation, it doesn't change much. You're just changing the solution by an exponential factor in t. So this is not really important. Okay, and a particular case which will be of interest for the connection with directed polymer is the case of alpha stable noise, where lambda is a pure power. Well, the density of lambda is a pure power, okay, with an exponent alpha which is between 0 and 2. Okay, so now what is my objective for this talk? Well, the main thing I want to present is a condition we found on the jump intensity, which guarantee existence and well, in some, well, okay, in some sense uniqueness, but I will not talk about uniqueness, but you will see that it's existence of a natural solution to this equation. Then I will try to talk about two small things. So first, the fact that this solution we find, it can be obtained as a scaling limit of a directed polymer with a certain type of environment. And finally, I will try to talk a bit about the localization properties of the solution, and this is something which is related to the study of the moments of the solution. Okay, so first, maybe it's not completely obvious what a solution of this equation means. So when I will talk about solution, I will mean that U satisfies pointwise the following almost sure equality, where here this integral on the right-hand side is a stochastic integral, okay? Because your noise comes naturally with the filtration. And well, the connection between these two things, well, it's simply integration with respect to time and some integration, some formal integration by parts. So this should not be too much of a problem, but I don't want to detail this. Okay, but this is just to give some notion of solution. Okay, so basically the first
Sorry,
step.
Uwe, so Rho was the heat kernel, no?
Yes. I forgot to remind it, and I will use it in the next slide. So it's good that yeah, Rho is the heat kernel.
Thank you.
The d-dimensional heat kernel. So yes, so the first thing is to find a formal expression which is a good candidate for a solution. We had, in the case of smooth V, the Feynman-Kac representation of the solution, and it's a bit problematic because, well, you don't want to take the exponential of a distribution. Okay, let's look at this exponential. What you can do with it is consider its Taylor expansion. And then when you look at this integral to the power k, you can say that this is just a k-fold integral. And when you look at this k-fold integral, you can say, okay, I can always restrict this integral to the simplex. So I can always consider that S1 is smaller than S2 and smaller than Sk. Because, well, if the coordinates are ordered in any other fashion, basically, well, any other ordering will give me the same contribution by permutation. So basically, if I restrict to the simplex, I just have to multiply by a factorial k afterwards to account for the number of permutation. And this yields the following expression. So I just lose the factorial k, and I get well, a sum from 1 to infinity, so from k to infinity of integrals of the product of v on the simplex. Okay, so this looks more reassuring because if you replace v by xi, well, okay, you can integrate your distribution with respect to time, and when you take the average with respect to Wiener measure, you might get something that might make sense. Maybe it's not clear at this point that this is a good idea, so let me give you another reason why this should be the right expression. So when you consider the exponential, this is equal to well, the infinitesimal product of 1 plus beta v ds. And this thing is actually what okay, the right meaning of the exponential for this solution, because when you solve the equation, this is really what you do. At each time steps, you multiply by this. So when v is not as regular, this identity might not be true, but this is really the thing you want to look at. And if you formally expand this by binomial expansion, you get this expression. So this is a way of saying that this should be what you should study. So okay, after integrating this with respect to Wiener measure, well, you obtain this expression, which maybe is not so nice but not so complicated. What you have in this integral here is you're integrating time on the simplex, space on the whole space, k times. And what you're integrating is the product of v, and you multiply it by the probability density that your Brownian trajectory visit all the space-time points from your integral, and the final point, which is the one which is fixed by the Brownian bridge. You know? Okay, so this is our candidate for a solution. You replace v by v ds dt by xi ds, v ds dy by xi ds dy, and this is what you should look at. Okay, and this rho here is just a shorthand notation for this probability of visiting all the space-time points. Okay, so okay, let me now make a short digression about the Gaussian case. So let's look at what happens when Xi is a space-time Gaussian white noise, and the dimension is equal to 1. Well, in that case, these integrals, they are stochastic integrals. And to check, well, you can see that as iterated stochastic integrals. And to check that they are well defined, you just need to compute the second moment. And okay, it's tedious, but not difficult computation to see that, well, not only all the integrals are bounded in L2, but when you sum over K, you also get something that is bounded in L2. So this thing is well defined. And it is a solution of the stochastic heat equation with initial condition Dirac at 0. And this basically follows from works of Walsh in the 80s. Now, if you look at Gaussian white noise in a larger dimension, well, you see that you're already in trouble, because if you look only at the first term, where you're just integrating Gaussian white noise against a deterministic function, well, this is a Gaussian. But the problem is that its variance, which is given by this formula, it's infinite, basically because you're trying to integrate 1 over t near 0. Or 1 over t to the, well, t to the minus d over 2 against 0. So, and if you try to dig further and to make an interpretation of this, actually the only reasonable interpretation you have is 0. So, and 0 is not a solution. So there is something that does not work there. People have tried to look for another interpretation, but where basically you smooth the noise by convolution and you reduce its intensity when you send the radius of convolution to 0. And in that case, in dimension 2, you can obtain well, you can probably obtain a non-trivial limit. So there are work in progress in that direction. But it's really a different game. So for the kind of solution we are looking at today, basically, you have to rule out these things and just to be satisfied with the fact that things does not exist in higher dimension. Okay, and dimension 3, I also mentioned it, but it's again something different, and it's even different from dimension 2. So, okay, so now let's move to the case of Levy noise. And actually, you run into the same problem here. Okay, you can consider this as a stochastic integral, but as soon as the dimension is 2 or larger, the L2 moments are infinite, and L2 is really the nice framework to do stochastic integration. When you try to do things in LP, it's more difficult to do things directly. So that's the reason why we took another approach. And basically, what is a case where it's easy to interpret this expression is a case where the intensity of the white noise is, well, when z is integrable at 0 for the intensity of the white noise. Because in that case, this is a signed measure. So this integral, you can just interpret it as a measure theoretical integral. Okay. So for this reason, well, we don't want to treat just this case. So what we are going to do is to consider the truncation and send A to 0 and see if we can do something. Okay, so this is the expression we consider. So now in order to make sense of this, you have to check that, well, you can integrate. But this is not really a problem, because at least if you do things at the formal level, this measure here, it's a sign measure. The positive part is the jump part, and the negative part is the constant you're subtracting. If you're integrating only with respect to the negative part, what will happen is you just get exactly the same expression, but with only the jump that is remaining, and the effect of integrating with respect to the negative part is just an exponential coefficient that you get on the front. Okay? So now this thing is always well defined. The only thing you have to check is that it's not infinite. Okay? And basically, when this integral is infinite, this means that this integral is not well defined. If this thing is finite, then the equality, which was only formal, it's really an equality. Okay, so now we run into a sequence of things that we have to check. So first, okay, we have to see to check under which condition the integral is finite. With Quentin, we found out a necessary and sufficient condition, which is that log z to the d over 2 has to be integrable at infinity. And this thing has to do, well, with really the decay of the Gaussian kernel. Okay, and it's necessary and sufficient in the sense that if this integral is infinite, then your partition function is infinite almost surely. And this is for every value of parameters. Okay, so from now on, we are going to assume that this is always the case. And now the second question is, well, what happened when you send a to 0? Because this is the case where we want to obtain the limit. We are quite lucky there because actually when you diminish a, what you're doing is you're adding new jumps, but you're compensating them with a new drift. And for this reason, basically, if you consider ZA as a process indexed by A, it's a time-reversed local martingale. The only reason why it's not a martingale, it's because if you have a very heavy-tailed noise, the expectation is infinite. But this is the only reason. Okay, so because it's a non-negative local martingale, it has a limit for free when A goes to 0. But the question is whether or not the limit is non-trivial. Okay, with Quentin and Karsten, we found a criterion for non-triviality of the limit. So when d equal 1, basically, there is no restriction in the sense that as soon as lambda is the intensity of a noise, then things work, okay? But in dimension 2 and more, you have restriction. Basically, in dimension 2, you have to add a log factor to the first criterion. And as soon as this dimension is larger than 3, basically, you have to change the power that you want to integrate, and the criterion becomes more restrictive when the dimension grows. Okay, so under this criterion, the limit is positive almost surely for every t and x. And well, provided that you have the right assumption on the tail of the noise, the convergence holds in LP for any p smaller than 1 plus 2 over d. So yeah, okay. Yeah, it's not p larger than 1. It's p, well, for any p between 1 and 1 plus 2 over d. Okay, you have a restriction there. Okay. So the thing is that this criterion, okay, it's not completely optimal, but it's quite close to optimal. In dimension 1 and 2, if the criterion is not satisfied, your limit is indeed 0, so which kind of indicates that there is no, probably no solution to your equation. In dimension 3 and more, the criterion that we have on the other side does not match really. We have a log z to the minus epsilon, which apparently could be reduced to a log z to the power 7, I think. Okay, just to say that the conditions are not necessary. We don't have a necessary and sufficient condition, but the two bounds are not very far from each other. Okay, so the criterion in this theorem, we believe that they are the sharp ones, and that this epsilon here is just because we were not good enough. Okay, so and a third thing that we proved is that what you obtain in the limit when the limit is non-trivial is a solution of the stochastic heat equation with Dirac initial condition. Well, in the sense that it satisfies this integral formulation of the equation. And again, this rho is the heat kernel. Okay, so this, I think this was the first and the most important part of the talk. Maybe I can summarize it a little bit. So basically, what we have seen is that the stochastic heat equation with Levy white noise, if the white noise is Gaussian, then you have a solution only in dimension 1. And if you consider pure jump Levy noise, then the solution can admit solution in any dimension, but you have restriction on the intensity of the jump as soon as the dimension is larger than 2. And here I'm really talking about the intensity of the jump at 0, because this story about what happens at infinity is really something different. Okay, and what I didn't make bibliographical reference during the presentation, but we were not the first one to look at this problem. Saint-Loup-Berbier proved existence of and even uniqueness of solution under some condition for lambda, and some other people, including Karsten, improved on his work. Until now, the best known criterion was really different than what we obtained, even on the level of the power of Z. So this is where the big improvement is. And this notion of, well, this thing of looking at the truncation of the noise in order to define the solution, I guess this is also a novel approach. Okay, so now I have absolutely no way to know about the time. So if when I have to hurry, you can tell me. Now, okay, let's go back to directed polymer, and let me.
So
tell
if
you
I'm not
how
mistaken, just 30 minutes went on. I mean.
Okay. So I will be able to go through the end. Okay, so yeah, so let's go back to directed polymer, and you know, if you remember what I said about the exponential, you might understand why I want to consider now not the exponential of beta eta, but the product of 1 plus beta eta. Okay, because this is something which is somehow more related to the stochastic heat equation than the exponential form. So let me consider, yes, a directed polymer model for which the point-to-point partition function is given by this Znx, which is the expectation with respect to the d-dimensional random walk of this product of 1 plus beta, okay, yeah, eta n s little n here. Yes, so it's exactly the same model as before, except that I twisted a bit I'm giving this kind of Gibbs weight instead of exponential Gibbs weight. And what I claim is that the solution of the stochastic heat equation can be obtained as the scaling limit of this after, well, sending n to infinity and rescaling x and the amplitude beta in the right way. And the kind of noise you get in the limit depends on... Is there a question? Okay, so the kind of noise you obtain in the limit depends on the assumptions that you have on the environment eta. So if eta has finite second moment and the dimension is equal to 1, Alberts, Cannin, and Quastel, they have shown that if you rescale beta like n to the minus 1/4 and you take space-time diffusive scaling, then your partition function converge to well, the solution of the stochastic heat equation with Gaussian white noise. Okay, and okay, you have to multiply the partition function by square root of n. The square root of n comes from the local central limit theorem, and you have factors too that are popping up because they are half of the size can't be visited by the walk, and this gives you some factors. So there is nothing very special about these things. Okay, so what happens when you don't have finite second moment? So, well, in the case where eta is in the domain of attraction of an alpha stable law, so in particular in the case where the tail of eta is a pure power, where alpha is smaller than 1 plus 2 over d. So here I excluded the value 1 because in the case alpha equal 1, the normalization is a bit different, but there is a result also in the case alpha equal 1. Then if you rescale beta like this power of n, then on the diffusive scale, you also get convergence of the point-to-point partition function of the directed polymer to the solution of the stochastic heat equation with Levy alpha stable noise. Okay, so you get these factors, these powers of 2 for the same reason, and this n to the d over 2, it's also because of the local central limit theorem. So there is nothing special there. Okay, and yes, there is something more written, but it's only the trivial things. Like you want to be sure that xn plus tn is even, because if not, well, the random walk cannot. I mean, your partition function is 0 because the random walk cannot end at the right point. Okay, and maybe one comment about the restriction on alpha. It's not really a restriction in the sense that if alpha is larger or equal than 1 plus 2 over d, well, the condition for existence of the solution to the stochastic heat equation is not satisfied. And so for this reason, you couldn't have such a convergence because we have not defined the limiting object. Okay, so yes, so this was my first comment. The second comment is that these results, they are actually richer in the sense that it's not only about convergence of the partition function, it's really about the convergence of the path measure. Once we scale the distribution of the first n steps of the random walk, it converges to a measure on the set of continuum paths that is called the continuum directed polymer. And okay, it was introduced in these works I mentioned in the 2 previous slides. Okay, so okay, now let me finish with the last theme of the talk, which is the localization of solution. And let me precise what I mean by localization. So okay, I told you earlier that okay, we were defining the point-to-line partition function as the integral over space of the point-to-point partition function. Well, we did that for when the multiplicative potential was nice, but you can do that also when you are considering the equation with a white noise. And what we are claiming is that in this integral here, most of the contribution is given by a region which is of finite volume. And by this, I mean that the volume of the region you have to consider, it does not grow with t. Okay, so let me write this as a conjecture, and then I will try to motivate this conjecture. So what I mean is that if you want to capture a fraction 1 minus epsilon of the mass, with probability larger than 1 minus epsilon, then you can restrict the integral to a union of k balls with radius r. And what's important in there is that, well, k and r, it depends on epsilon, but it does not depend on t. So even if you take, yes. So this is, I mean, this, if you take the heat equation, this is something that would not be true, because you know that the equation, it kind of spread evenly on a ball of radius square root of t. So there is no way to capture all the mass. So this is something which is quite different. Okay, I will kind of make a point of on how our results relate to this conjecture and to proof of to work of other people. Okay, so for this I will need to go back to polymer once again and introduce the notion of free energy for the directed polymer. So in the terminology I use for this talk, the free energy is simply the exponential rate of decay of the partition function Zn, so the full partition function, divided by its expectation. And I'm assuming that I'm considering an environment which is such that the expectation is finite. So this is okay. So there have been works in the early 2000s that have shown that this is well defined. Okay, and this is just this formula. Okay, so these limits they exist. They are finite, and by Jensen inequality, they are non-negative. So why are we interested in this free energy? Well, it's because in this work of the early 2000s, so by Carmona Hu and Komet Shiga Yoshida, it has been proved that the positivity of the free energy, it's related to localization property of the endpoint distribution of the polymer. I think the finest result, which is known in this direction, is a recent result by Bates and Chatterjee. And what they have shown is basically well, a C0 mean version of the conjecture that is on the previous slide. Okay, so what they have proved is that basically, in order to have the full mass of this endpoint distribution with high probability, you only need a finite number of points. In the sense, well, if you want to recuperate to get a fraction 1 minus epsilon of the endpoint distribution with probability 1 minus epsilon, well, you need to pick k points. This k will depend on epsilon, but it will not depend on n. And again, this is in contrast with what happened for the simple random walk. And so this result is not what is in the previous slide, but it's a C0 mean version. It basically means that okay, maybe it does not happen for every n, but it happens with for a proportion of n's that tend to 1. And actually, this is what I would have hoped to prove for the stochastic heat equation to be. Okay, so now let me talk more about directed polymer. So when is the free energy positive for directed polymer? And well, I will talk more specifically in the case where your environment has second moment. And in that case, well, it has been shown quite early in the story of the study of directed polymer that in dimension 3 and more, then for beta small, you have P of beta, which is equal to 0. And it was actually shown that in that case, the endpoint distribution and even the distribution of the trajectory behave like the one of the random walk in the sense that they rescale to a Gaussian and to a Brownian motion respectively. But in dimension 1 and 2, things are different, and whatever beta you choose, you always have positive free energy. So you have localization even when the amplitude of your disorder is small. Okay, so now what is true for the solution of the stochastic? Oh yeah, maybe some last thing. So yes, in fact, even some. So it has been shown that P beta is positive for every beta in dimension 1 and 2. And it has even been shown that the critical behavior around beta close to 0 has been identified. So Nakashima has proved that P beta was of order beta to the 4 over 6, which corresponds to the critical behavior also of the stochastic, well, it corresponds to the free energy of the stochastic heat equation with Gaussian noise. And in dimension 2, together with Quentin, we have shown that P beta behave like exponential to the minus beta to the minus 2, so something much smaller. And well, this kind of underlines that, well, the fact that you don't get the power of beta underlines that d equal 2 is really the critical dimension for this problem. Okay, so now what happened for that for our continuum model? So we did not consider the study of the free energy because we had and we still have some trouble to show that the expectation of log z is not equal to minus infinity under some general assumption for lambda. So for this reason, we consider rather this other Lyapunov exponent, which is basically the same thing, but you replace log by square root. But okay, you can look at this definition, and this is another way that quantifies how Zn over its expectation decays on the exponential scale. Okay. Okay, what we have shown with Carsten and Quentin is that in any dimension, for any beta and for any jump intensity, provided that it's non-trivial, then this exponent here is positive. Okay, and the 1/2 here, okay, you could consider any power between 0 and 1, and in fact the results are equivalent by just by convexity. Okay, so this thing indicates, okay, if you take into account the results of Chatterjee and Bates and previous results, that the solution should be localized for in any for all cases. And well, finally, we also proved estimate on these Lyapunov exponents. So if you assume that z square is integrable, well, not at 0, but at infinity, so which this is really equivalent to the finite second moment assumption, then we have shown that in dimension 1, this p1/2 of beta, it's asymptotically equivalent to beta 4, so like the directed polymer. In dimension 2, we also find that the asymptotic, at least at a rough level, the asymptotic that you find for the directed polymer is also the same. But in larger dimension, we also obtain straight exponential asymptotic. Okay, so we get something positive. Well, basically, above dimension 2, it seems like every dimension behaves like a critical dimension, which is something at first a bit surprising. Okay, so the model is different. You have localization in any dimension, which is in contrast with what you observed for the discrete model. But in spite of that, the models still remain very similar, and the difference is really something subtle and comes from the fact that basically by putting two jumps of your Levy noise close together, you're kind of creating heavy-tailed disorder, and this is what makes you subcritical for every beta. Okay. So yeah, I think I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Uber. So I propose that we unmute our mics so we can thank Uber. Oh. Yes. So it is time for questions. So does anyone have any questions?
I have a simple question, I think.
Yes, go on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, yes, go on.
Okay. No, when you were talking about it's just something I didn't understood from the statement of the localization, this conjectural localization, where you have this radius depending on epsilon.
Yeah, so maybe
one more.
Yes.
No. Yes. So here the radius could be. I'm having trouble putting it together with the picture in the usual stochastic heat equation, because the radius could be getting larger and larger, so you're still getting a lot of the mass. Like R epsilon could be growing like crazy, I guess. So I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, it can be going like crazy, but not with T. That's the important point.
Okay.
Yeah, but okay. I thought the question was going to be different. Here, of course, in the way I write things, you don't need the R, okay? Because R and K, well, you can supply for small R with large K, but I don't know. I think some people believe that K should be equal to 1, so that's the reason
or I guess that R can be small and you make K.
R can be yeah. If you take R small, then it does not change the conjecture. If you take R equal to 1, it doesn't change the conjecture. You just have to keep K going much larger. because you
Yeah.
can cover all these balls by balls of radius 1.
Okay. Okay, no, but I hadn't noticed that there was the T. Okay. And maybe the other question, since I'm already talking, in this difficulty you mentioned about proving that the log of Z is positive. I mean that Z is positive. So you can get.
No, the difficulty is to prove that what we can't do is to prove in general that the expectation of log Z is not minus infinity.
Okay.
But okay, I mean, for instance, if your negative drift is finite, then it's trivial, because
okay.
you can
So
always.
it's
I mean, your thing is really your solution is increasing in psi, so you can just keep the negative part and you get something simple. No, but the problem is that okay, if you have lots and lots of jumps, you're not. I mean, they shouldn't. Okay, you basically the only thing we could do surgery and we would get a condition that is worse. Okay, first we would need a lot of computation and we will get a condition that is worse that does not match the condition for existence of the thing. But a priori, I mean, if the free energy is equal to minus infinity, you should have more localization. So yeah,
okay.
So yeah, we have proof for a problem for this and also problem to show self-averaging. So.
Okay.
But this is technical.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So are there any other questions? So meanwhile, I had some, especially with the conjecture. So and with this, so what does it say about the continuum directed polymer? This conjecture, is it that it is concentrated on these balls, in these unions of balls, or I froze Uwe with my question. This is yeah.
I'm going to be able to cover most of the mass for the endpoint of the directed polymer measure, but just for the endpoint.
So wait, so we lost you a little bit. So why do you mean by with the endpoint?
Endpoint.
So it's endpoints in time, but it's not endpoints in time, no?
Yes. So you have a directed polymer measure with a fixed time horizon.
Yes.
And the localization is just about the tip of the polymer.
Okay, so it's not that it stays on this region to the whole trajectory.
No, it's not that it stays in a corridor. I mean, actually, I think most of the results that were proved about past localization, they require something about the derivative of the free energy, which is supposed to be always positive, but this is more difficult to show.
So what is the intuition? Why does it does so? These points where it concentrates do not change in time.
Okay, okay. So there is an intuition. Maybe the simplest thing is the intuition behind the results of the first results of comets Shiga Yoshida or Kamona and Hu. So the thing that and maybe it's in that case it's easier to look at the polymer representation. So basically, when you make one time increment, if you look at the ratio between partition functions, the ratio between partition function, it's an average over the endpoint at n-1 of some exponential of the environment at time n.
Yes.
Okay. So if the endpoint is not localized, then Jensen inequality should be sharp because you're summing a lot of IID variables with coefficients that are, I mean, and the maximum coefficient should be small. So basically, this should behave like you should have some kind of law of large number.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, because to have a law of large number, it's not that you need every coefficient to be 1 over n. You just need to every coefficient to be small and the sums to be 1. So if you don't have law of large numbers, so if these things doesn't, I mean, and here you know that you don't know something about one increment, but when you have something about the free energy, you know that on average, and this is where the Cesaro mean comes from, you know that on average, most of the time, Jensen inequality won't be sharp. This is the reason why the expectation of the log is smaller than the log of the expectation. So this means that yeah, most of the time you will have to lose something, and to lose something you need to have localization. So then the technical work and the nice thing on the work of Bates and Chatterjee is they basically look at convergence of this endpoint measure with some right quotients considered. So they kind of say, okay, your measure, it can split up in different parts, and I will consider this part in a nice quotient space and stuff. And basically they have an argument to say that in the limit you cannot lose mass. So it's not possible to have one part which is localized and the other which is equally spread. You must have, if you have something localized, you must have everything localized. But this is a very fine argument. You really have to understand this. I mean,
yes, and at this and at the point of the, let's say, pathwise, because this is like so somehow I understand it as a partition function. I like this idea of the inequality.
Yeah,
but is it like, can I understand it like pathwise? Why it goes?
Yeah, so
concentrate.
Path 5. I think it's a bit more difficult to see. Okay, so why concentrate? I guess, well, you can see that on simulation. Maybe also you have that for solvable models. But what I can understand from the computation, okay, it really, what you really get out is, what you really get is a derivative from the free energy, which is not really satisfying. And the thing that, okay, instead of considering the time increments, you can play the same game and looking at different partition function with different levels of noise and take the derivative in the intensity of the noise. Basically, you're considering that your noise of intensity beta, it's the integral, okay, on an interval beta of length beta square of infinitesimal noises. And basically, when you do this, you see that okay, the derivative of your free energy, it's the reason why it's not, if it's not averaging, it's because you have some overlap. Kind of, yeah, it's kind of the same thing as for the endpoint, but now you're instead of changing the time horizon, you're changing the noise, and this is what gives you these formulas. And yeah, maybe there are works I do not know, but all the works I know about path localization, they use this kind of trick. So that's the reason why you have results for Brownian. Well, you have result for Gaussian noise, but you can also have result for Poisson noise, because you have the same thing of, you can define the environment as a sum of infinitesimal environments. So as soon as you have infinitely divisible laws somewhere, you can do this thing about path overlap. But I think there is something more needed to understand this well.
Thank you.
But, yeah.
Thank you a lot. So are there any other questions?
But Daniel must know more about these things than me, maybe.
No, but I don't think I can say anything other than what you said. So, I mean, no, I wouldn't be able to say much more.
So any other questions? So if not, I propose that we thank the speaker again for the very nice talk.
For having
and now we can.
Well, sorry for the mess in the introduction, but
don't worry, it's not on YouTube, so it is good.
okay.
So I think we can.